Welcome to the U.S. Manufacturing Today podcast, your hub of information about the U.S. manufacturing and distribution industry. Brought to you by Variable, the on-demand labor solution revitalizing and optimizing your operation, enabling just-in-time response to demand, more efficient production, and lower cost per unit. And now your host and head of Reindustrialization at Variable, Matt Horine.
Welcome back to U.S. Manufacturing Today, the podcast powered by Variable, where we talk with the leaders, innovators, and changemakers shaping the future of American industry, along with providing regular updates on the state of manufacturing, the changing landscape, policies, and more. Our guest today is Chad Woods, Director of Operations at Alcon Industries, a Cleveland-based metals manufacturer that's quietly redefining what an American foundry can do in 2025. For more than 50 years, Alcon has been a trusted name in specialty alloys, nickel-based castings, and engineered metal components. But what's happening there right now is remarkable. They're winning market share, shortening their lead times, and reshoring critical metal capacity that's vital to U.S. manufacturing. Chad's leadership has been central to part of that growth. Under his direction, Alcon has built a more flexible workforce, adopted new technologies, and found ways to outperform competitors in speed, quality, and precision. Today, we'll talk about how that's possible, from casting to flexible operations, and how Alcon's story reflects the broader renaissance happening in American manufacturing. Chad, we're excited to have you on, and welcome to U.S. Manufacturing Today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's jump right into it. First and foremost, we'd like to know a little bit more about your background. You spent much of your career in operations and manufacturing leadership. Can you start by sharing your journey and what brought you into metals manufacturing and ultimately to Alcon?
After graduating high school, I fell into it. My dad, he was a metal shop manager for a place called AMG Vanadium. So I knew a little bit about the steel industry. And then one of his friends offered me a job at the largest steel foundry in the world at that time called Columbus Castings. And I went there and worked. And then first time I ever saw molten metal being poured, I was fascinated by it. It was like part science, part chaos, and then the craftsmanship that goes into it after that. I started on the production side and worked my way up through the operations. At AMG and Metal Tech, I eventually took over as a metal shop manager at AMG. And at Metal Tech, I was over their Centrifugal division for Petrochem. I realized through all that, I really enjoyed building teams, fixing all the broken processes that were there, and helping people grow themselves and stabilizing all the operations.
Yeah, that's a great story, and one that's at the heart of where Alcon is based in Cleveland, Ohio, a state that's been at the heart of American manufacturing and steel for over a century. But what's special about operating in Ohio today, especially as we see more reshoring and this drive towards reindustrialization? I'm sure it's home to you, but there's something special going on there.
Ohio, it's a manufacturing state at heart. It's never really went away from Ohio. We have the talent in Ohio. We have the work ethic, and a lot of the infrastructure is already here.
I love that. It's something that people have talked about, like reshoring and reindustrialization, but companies like Alcon and stories like yours of people who really drive it and build it, it never really went away. I think we talk a lot of with our guests that things have been offshored or they need to be reshored, but it's still there. It's the heartbeat of manufacturing. And your story is fascinating because it's one like we've talked about on this show a lot. People see that molten metal, they see that type of steel work, and it just clicks and makes sense.
Yes, it does for sure. It's fascinating. It still fascinates me when I go out there on the shop floor and see them pouring and seeing what comes out of the sand molds and stuff. It's a pretty amazing thing.
Specifically, your company, for the Alcon story, it dates back to the 70s, but the company's evolution over the past few years has been quite dramatic from what we understand. And for those unfamiliar, can you describe Alcon's core business, what you produce, who you serve, and how your process stands apart from the typical foundry?
We're like a job shop. We do different things from heat treat to retort tubes to baskets. We have centrifugal tubing. We do investment parts for fine detail castings in our investment area. And the good thing about Alcon that makes us different than most places is we have everything under roof. So we can make an investment casting with a sand casting and then make something in centrifugal and send it to our fab shop, and we can put it all together under one roof. That in itself cuts down our lead times, gives us better quality and fewer handoffs where we don't have to ship it across and have somebody else do a different process on it.
That's a pretty critical part of it, just because many metal producers are facing challenges with cost, sourcing, talent. You highlighted that the state has the talent. Alcon seems to be in growth mode. Is there, because it's all under one roof and that strategy, is that what you're doing differently, or are there other things that are keys to the success there?
It comes down to alignment and the discipline that we've set here. Kevin, our president, he sets the direction that we're trying to go. And then Justin keeps us connected to the market and the customer. And then Jake Vidini, he's the HR director. He helps us keep the correct workforce and culture. On the operations side, I try to focus on keeping strong systems, flexibility, and not growing faster than our processes can handle.
Yeah, that's a really great point. People love the growth, but they need to have the plan for it, right? That's something that without the proper planning and those processes can tank everybody if they're outgrowing and they don't ever want to turn down a job. Tying into some of the central themes that you were highlighting there, about speed and flexibility, one thing that stands out is in our past discussions is your ability to reduce lead times, which is no small feat in metals manufacturing. What operational changes or innovations really made that possible?
So there's no really one single thing that's done that, but we improved the scheduling here, tightened the communication between our sales and operation, which was a nightmare when we first got here. We built stronger processes and discipline on the floor, but a huge piece of that was our labor flexibility with variable. We don't have to panic anymore if we have call-offs or if we know that we have a huge workload coming forward or our demand spikes, because it's such an up and down industry. One week, you'll have a ton of orders that you got to get out, and the next week, that workload can go down drastically. It's an up and down thing.
Yeah, though that's something that we see a lot of in the market. And obviously you guys are variable users. And can you share how your team has used that flexible capacity to maybe take on new business and scale up without sacrificing quality? I know that's really important to you all.
Like you said, variables played a big role in that. The foundry life is unpredictable. Sometimes we need people tomorrow. Sometimes we don't. With variable, we can fill the gaps quickly when we have surge work and call-offs.
It's a very dynamic environment right now. There's a lot of big things happening on the global stage where material may cost more, may be subject to tariffs. People have used all kinds of material management strategy to try to mitigate that. But our point of view is certainly one that the labor flexibility and the ability to take on the capacity lies at the heart of labor strategy. And in your viewpoint, how important is that flexibility for U.S. manufacturers maybe trying to compete globally? And full disclosure, I'm not sure how much global business you all do, especially against low-cost, high-volume offshore producers. Has it set it apart? And are you seeing a little bit of a shift back to U.S.-based production?
Yes, I have. It's critical. Offshore producers compete on the labor cost and volume. Domestic manufacturers compete on speed, quality, and control. Workforce flexibility protects that, like using variable, using it as a tool.
I can see that because a lot of what we've talked about on this show, the labor arbitrage that took place over the past 3, maybe 4 decades, in a lot of ways gutted manufacturers across the Midwest, across the country, because it was just an arbitrage play for labor. It was basically like how low can we get the labor cost? And some of the quality may be caught up from overseas, but it is subject to all of those types of things that we talk about, which include those macro conditions like tariffs and depending on what the geopolitical risk is and all of that. I'm certainly no strategist, but it's something that has left a lot of exposure that's just making itself apparent over the past decade. I'd love to get into talking a little bit more about what it is you all do and learning more about the casting process, because I think it's something that's very interesting for our audience and some of the innovative things that you're doing. Let's dig into the technical world a bit. What makes Alcon's casting process unique?
So what makes our process unique is we aren't just locked into one process where we have sand, investment, and centrifugal castings. A customer can actually just come to us and even on a piece of paper and draw something, and we'll give it to our engineering team. They'll run a full analysis and scale of what we can do for them. They'll put it all together. We do a lot of new product work and stuff. And the thing is, we can do it from the start to the finish of whatever a customer needs. We can do it in-house. Very little do we ever send anywhere else. And the flexibility allows engineering and sales and operations to work in alignment and move quickly. And we don't cut any corners doing so.
Yeah, that goes all back to that theory of under one roof, right? Where some people talk about it as vertical integration. Some people talk about it as adding on different things for the whole process or prefabrication or those types of things. It's just bit by bit, but it sounds like you guys have that great strategy put together under one roof. One thing about casting that's very interesting to me, and I've learned a little bit about it. We had a great episode with Maren Muxlow, who is part of the Investment Casting Institute, but she highlighted investment casting and some of those things, but centrifugal casting, but key development on the horizon for you guys with some more capabilities. For those outside the industry, what does that process look like and how will it expand what Alcon can do for their customers?
So centrifugal casting, it's spinning a mold while you're pouring molten metal. And what that does, it creates a dense, high integrity structure. It pushes out the slag and the impurities to the outside of the mold, which does the integrity part and makes it more dense. It's ideal for pressure vessels, wear components, energy applications, special tubes production, and not a lot of places do that anymore.
Especially people talk about the capabilities of businesses that are onshore right now or our industrial capacity. It sounds like there's a lot of end user benefits for this type of process. Are you seeing new demand from reshoring, defense, energy? Does that demand look like it's building up? Just mostly because there's been concern over the past couple months with various economic data. A great example of that would be the jobs reports getting revised by 1 million over the past 12 months. There's some integrity issues with that, right? We've said on this show, it's either a confidence crisis or something worse. Can we have confidence in it or is it a competency crisis? And so a lot of the manufacturing numbers we see, we just don't know about anymore. But are you seeing demand from your viewpoint on the shop floor picking up from new sectors or picking up from new points of interest?
Yes, we're absolutely seeing a higher spike in demand. Centrifugal has our highest backlog. We've actually got customers here in Cleveland that went offshore to get there, and now they've came to us here recently.
That is great news and something that runs a little counter to the narrative on the national scale because people are saying, oh, we don't see this great reshoring movement wave all at once. And it's something that took decades to offshore. And I think we're probably moving at a faster pace now to reshore it. So it's a really great insight from you and Alcon to know that demand is there because manufacturing traditionally leads the rest of the economic indicators, right?
Yeah, the order we got that we brought in was the biggest order we had got in a couple years and one single order.
That's great to hear. It's something that we know that the pent-up demand is there, right? And people have been on the sidelines for a couple of years now. I think it's pretty fair to say that manufacturing has probably been in some sort of recession for at least 2 to 3 years prior to 2025. Numbers are just now coming out. Everybody who's been on the shop floor knows the real story, but now the rest of the country may be catching up. Competing through this type of central control and what is these capabilities under one roof, from what we've heard, you're not just in that position where it's a lot of companies that we hear today surviving, you're in control of your growth trajectory. What do you think was fundamental to reaching that point? I know there's those capabilities and your adaptability and flexibility, but are there other things that were part of that?
It just really started from our leadership standpoint. We got clear leadership from Kevin. The commercial side is very strong alignment with the operations from Justin. And then the workforce strategy with Jake and myself, and with the flexible labor, with variable, we're able to really compete with anyone and outdo lead times. Labor was a huge issue when we first got here. Once we tackled the labor part of it with variable's help, it helped us get rid of so many bottlenecks and helped us with our scheduling. It helped the control and growth became intentional rather than reactive. We was constantly being reactive.
That's a great story because so much of what we hear in manufacturing all over the place is that there's these waves that come through. It feels like there's not really a lot of control over it. And so as an operations leader, what does it mean to you to truly own your capacity and choose your partnerships in today's market? It sounds like you're in the position to get to choose the right partners and to choose the order of march on your customers. What does that mean for you as an ops leader?
So it's know your limits, right? It's also choosing good partners with stability and rather than chaos.
Yeah. What advice would you give to other manufacturers looking to reach that level of stability and control?
Don't mask your broken processes with overtime and heroics. Fix your flow, build your strategies collaboratively, and use flexible labor as a tool.
And that's really good advice, especially on the masking or hiding problems, right? They just get worse as time goes on. It's not going to go away. Let's take a look now at the broader industrial picture across the board. Your success and Alcon's success seems to reflect the larger truth that American manufacturing can compete when it's agile, skilled, and empowered. What do you see happening across the metals sector right now? You've got competitors, you've got probably vendors and customers and others, but what are you seeing from others right now that's indicating some signs of positivity?
That there's a real opportunity for fast, flexible, disciplined manufacturers to make a comeback. Customers, they can clearly see the differences.
I think when you've lived it day to day for years in the industry, that's a really encouraging sign. We talked a lot on this show about reshoring and the local production. Are you seeing evidence that more customers want to buy American-made castings and components now, or that they're more conscious of it than they were beforehand?
I absolutely do. Customers want control, predictability, and accountability. And they even want to go and see the places that they're doing business with and stuff and have tours and see the whole process and the people that they're buying from. So yeah, absolutely, I do.
That's such a great point, because I think that for far too long, that was just given up on. When stuff is offshored, you think that there's not much we can do about it, and the winds of change have carried it away from us, and we don't have control. And as soon as it comes back, you see that level of interest from your customers and your partners, right? They want to see where it's made. They want to see how it's made. They want to see how you do it. It's a great story.
They're eager to build relationships. They're eager to see things and how it actually goes and how it actually works.
It's such a positive sign and a total indictment on the offshoring movement that happened throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, even part of the 2010s, because people just chased the labor costs, like lower the labor costs. And that's our bottleneck. And it's not, because you sacrifice quality. That kind of overcame itself. And I think that in a lot of ways, the labor costs have probably gone up overseas. But to really give American manufacturers a fighting chance at a level playing field, that's what we're seeing. And that's what we believe in, because I think that's really what's been taken away, is that people didn't think that they had a fair shot or the chance to compete. And so it's very encouraging to hear that from the market. How do you see Alcon's work contributing to the broader U.S. reindustrialization effort, both economically and culturally? And I'll preface that with, we see it as it's a fight on the shop floor. There's a lot of buzz around like the defense sector or this sector moving this plant or that plant back. But how do you see Alcon's part of this and contributing to that?
We're just creating skilled jobs, growing domestically supply chains, and we're proving that American manufacturing can compete when it's ran with discipline.
What's the next stage in your growth right now? Or what kind of customers are you looking for who, if people wanted to find out more about your business or how they could potentially partner with you, where could they go to do that, and what's next for you guys?
So they can go to alconindustries.com, get a hold of us. We can pretty much do anything in-house.
That's great to hear, because there's so many people who have forfeited that to contract manufacturing or said we have to have this type of lead time from something overseas. So the end-to-end build out that you guys have created is just an inspiring story. We were really glad to have you on the show today, Chad, and excited to see what's up next for Alcon.
Thank you. I enjoyed being on the show.
Alcon's story proves something powerful, that speed, flexibility, and quality are still the real competitive edge, and that made in America can mean better, faster, and smarter. To our listeners, visit alconindustries.com to see how this Ohio-based team is pushing metals manufacturing forward. To stay ahead of the curve and to help plan your strategy, please check out our website at variableops.com and under the resources section titled Trump 2.0, where you can see the framework around upcoming policies and how they will impact you. If you're on socials, give us a follow on LinkedIn, X, Truth, or Instagram. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please feel free to follow the show on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube and leave us a rating. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again for joining us and learning more about how you can make your way.